It was early Sunday morning. The sun had just risen. The dew was sparkling, and the early morning birds were singing their joyful song. But Mary and her friends couldn't join in the joyful noise. They were on their way to a tomb, the tomb of their friend Jesus. Jesus had just died a horrific death, and their hearts were full of sorrow because he was gone. Has your heart ever been full of sorrow? They were carrying spices to put on Jesus' body. They didn't talk much, but as they walked, they asked each other, "Who's going to roll away the huge stone from the entrance of the tomb? We're not strong enough to do it on our own." As they approached the tomb, the ground began to tremble and shake. Mary and her friends staggered, and when they looked up, the stone had been rolled away from the tomb, and someone was sitting on it. He was wearing all white, and he was as bright as lightning. The guards that had been around the tomb trembled and fell over because they were so afraid. Mary and her friends were afraid too. They had never seen anyone like this man before. How would you feel if you saw someone as bright as lightning? The man spoke to them and said, "Do not be afraid. I know you're looking for Jesus. He is not here. He is risen, just as he said. Come in and look at the place where he lay, and then go quickly and tell his disciples, 'Jesus has risen from the dead and is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him.'" The women were still trembling, and they still felt afraid. Could it be true? Their hearts began to fill with joy as they hurried away to tell the disciples. As they hurried as fast as they could, suddenly someone appeared to them on the road. Who could it be? It was Jesus. They rushed to him and knelt at his feet and worshiped him. What would you do if Jesus was suddenly before you? The women's hearts were racing and full of joy. Right in front of them was the man that they had seen crucified and buried. And Jesus spoke to them and said, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and they will see me." And so the women continued on their way to share the good news with the disciples. The 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. And when they saw Jesus, they worshiped him. It was time for Jesus to go back to heaven, but before he left, he had a special message. "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I have commanded. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age."